Hello, my crafty friend, and thank you so much for joining me today in what I think is day 7, I'm starting to lose count, of the series 12 Days of Gifts to Make. So as you can see here, I have a very messy little desk. It is just covered with junk jewelry and art prints and my scissors and my clippers. And that's because the craft that we're doing today is so absolutely simple to do that I think I'll have time to mass make lots and lots of stuff for it. So hopefully you'll get to see me use at least a lot of the jewelry and hopefully all of the little pictures. So anyhow, we typically think of magnets as things that go on the refrigerator. And while certainly whoever receives these magnets is more than welcome to use them to decorate their fridge, I'm envisioning these to be more like statement pieces to decorate maybe the front of a journal cover or maybe one of the most special pages inside a journal. So what I'm going to do is actually make these not as single magnets, but as magnet pairs, so that one can go, let me just demonstrate here. So here's a swap journal that I'm working on for my friend May. This page might be a bad page to use as the demo because there's already something stuck to it, and that's the little cupcake here. But let me find a more blank-ish page. This one here, for example. So say I turn this framed image, or this little image, into a magnet. I'm going to make sure that there's another magnet to go on the other side of the flip to kind of hold it in place. And that way they're not fully glued down, so they can be mixed and matched and changed to suit the mood of the journaler. Or again, put on the fridge if you'd like to bling up your refrigerator. But anyhow, yeah, I'm going to start by doing some of these magnets because this is a little bit more complicated than these ones. What I'm planning to do with all the junk jewelry you see here, and it's stuff that I found in $10 jars at the thrift store. Guys, this is my #1 craft supply tip. Like if you learn anything from me about sourcing your materials, #1 thing is go thrifting. Look in the jewelry section. If they have grab bags or jars of old broken jewelry, scoop those up because it's a steal of a deal and you can find some amazing stuff in it. So full disclosure, I bought this Mangtika in India. It's hair part jewelry, so it would be worn similarly to how the Mughal princess here is wearing some hair part jewelry. So this was not junk, not in a junk jar. And this is from a pair of earrings I bought at a thrift store for $5 for the pair. For me, thrifting, that's big bucks because everything else in the jewelry here, including this watch, this broken watch, it all appeared to me in those jewelry jars. So yeah, those who say I have a bottomless craft stash or so much jewelry to choose from, it's not that I have squandered my rent money on bling. It's that, yeah, I just go thrifting as often as I can, and I always check the jewelry section first. Highly recommended. But anyway, with all these little broken earrings, all I'm going to do is clip the posts off using some wire cutters and then glue little round magnets to the backs so that they are all ready to use instantly, almost instantly. These I'm going to do something a little bit more complicated with, and the craft was inspired by a page that I decorated in my friend May's swap journal. So I know that May loves peacocks just like me, and I found this absolutely magnificent peacock print among a happy mail from my artist friend Kat Stone. She just makes the most opulent imagery out there. Like her painting skills are next level. And she included lots of little prints in one of her happy mails. And what I love about them is that even though they're prints, they're very, very textured because she goes over them with glitter pens and punches up little details using dabs of dimensional paint. Thank you so much, Kat, for all the beautiful work you share with me. But anyway, when I added this into the swap journal, when I glued that peacock image down in the center of the page, I decided I wanted to make it one of the most opulent frames it could possibly get. And for me, that means sari trims and sequin trims and blingy little embroidered bits and broken jewelry. And so this, I would say, is a little bit too big to be a magnet. So that's a page in May's journal. However, I have some little mini images that I could do smaller little frames around and get the same sort of lavish effect. So I just wanted to share with you my inspiration piece that kind of sparked the idea for this project. And although this book is still maybe a few weeks from complete, I'm trying to decorate every single page, and you know how long that takes if you're also a crafter. But I had to share this with you. And yeah, so I'll set that aside and get started. So now you kind of know, visually speaking, what sort of an aesthetic I'm going for. I am going for over-the-top, beautiful, highly adorned magnets. So the base for the magnet, I have this stack of just plain, flat, white on one side magnets. These are the kind that businesses will print their logos on. And for example, I had a bunch of these that said TELUS, which is our telephone, cable, internet provider up here in Canada. And I always save them when they come in junk mail because they can be used in crafting. I used up all of those, but if you've got a stash, even better. That makes this kind of a free project that you'll be working on. These are thanks to the lovely Kat, as are these metal magnets that I'll be using for the backs of the earrings. Oops. I always get clumsy when I'm on camera, so please don't mind me if I knock the desk right over at some point. And then these ones, the bigger magnets, I'm thinking for the larger, heavier pieces of junk jewelry. Maybe, maybe not. They might get a little bit too visible in it, but we're just gonna go ahead and play and see what we come up with. So yeah, just like always, I'm going to be fairly spontaneous in my crafting. I like to do things sort of on the fly and just kind of see how they turn out. So I've got a few scraps of fabrics here. This pretty pink dotted one, this purple embroidered piece, these little jeweled medallions that were on some vintage sari. I have some very bohemian looking coin trim. So what I'm going to do is just kind of play around with these different pieces of fabric and textile and see which ones look the nicest with whatever little piece I'm working with at any given time. So I think that because the colors in her scarf are predominantly reds, greens, whites, and golds, those are the colors I'm going to look for to make this into a really stunning magnet. Yeah, I think this piece goes here because see how, and this was not planned, my friend, but look at how much the shape of this gorgeous drop in that gold lace echoes the shape of the earring in this beautiful lady's image. So I know I'm going to use this. I'll set the other stuff aside. I'm thinking a couple of these because of the red in her scarf. Oh, definitely a little bit of the green that's lining that because of the green in her scarf. And then under my table, I've got a big scrap of very, very, very cheap gold colored fabric that was part of a sari that the cheapest kinds of saris you can find in India is where this came from. So I'm going to use that around the edges, because even though it's cheap, it looks really good as a base. You can see how I've used that as the background base on May's journal. So here we go. It's as simple as deciding and then gluing. So I am just going to use my Fabri-Tac for this one because the top of the magnet has a bit of a glossy consistency. So I fear a glue stick. The glue that comes from a glue stick might just want to peel right back up again. And so this gives it a more secure, snug, permanent hold. And from here, I'm just going to start playing with my fabrics, deciding what's going to go where. Got my scissors here to trim little strips. So yeah, I've been chatting with some of you in the comment section below this video, and I absolutely adore all of the supportive comments. So many of you have been so encouraging of my crafts and happy with how this series has turned out. So even though it's kind of beyond my comfort zone to craft on camera and to try to come up with stuff to say as I craft, I'm grateful to hear from so many of you that it's okay if I get a little silent while I'm focused and concentrating. That really does take off the pressure that I put on myself to try to make these watchable, basically is what I'm saying. So I'm glad to know that even if I'm not talking consistently throughout, it still is watchable. That's just awesome. So yeah, this might look a little bit finicky, but it is easy. And I just realized I'm off camera here. So I'm just gonna move this whole little table. There, now you can see what I'm doing on the bottom too. So I'm trying to fill in the background with fabric scraps, just so that I know there will be no white space showing around the print. And I do believe I have achieved that. So now I'm going to glue all of these down before I move on to the next step, and that way it's not going to get too overwhelming to try to fill it in. And in fact, I'm going to turn this one over because I prefer that rounded edge on the top, not the bottom. So yeah, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but if you're new here, welcome and thank you for tuning in. But yeah, if you're new here, my favorite glue for fabrics is Fabri-Tac. I've experimented with lots of different glues. I've wasted a lot of money on cheap stuff, and I've learned my lesson. You get what you pay for. Fabri-Tac is the only one that I find consistently does not bleed through the fabric and ruin a piece. A lot of the others are unpredictable. They might look good with some fabrics, but they kind of soak through and add like a crusty, cruddy layer to others. Fabri-Tac does not do that. And so it is my go-to favorite bookmaking glue, crafting glue. So yeah, if you have access to it, get yourself some Fabri-Tac. You will not be sorry. It'll make it so much easier to do stuff like what I'm doing right now. There we go. And then that little bit of gold up top. And I'm going to hang this little bit of gold from the bottom. And don't be afraid to cut your embroidered trims. As you'll see, it doesn't actually make them unravel. And you might be saying, duh, of course it doesn't make them unravel, but I was so scared to cut into these kinds of things when I was new to crafting, because I was really convinced that they would just totally come apart and unravel if they were cut into. but after much experimentation, I'm pleased to report that they do not. Oh yeah, that's gonna go up there. And what else should go on this little one? I think I love this, but it would make it too three-dimensional, which means it would bulk up the page if we use it as a page decoration in a junk journal. So what I'm going to look for here instead, I'm going to look for something really pretty, but mainly flat that can go there. So I've got lots and lots of little stud earrings over here. That kind of has a similar aesthetic, doesn't it? So there's a contender. That would be cool too, but a little lackluster compared to what else is on the page. That's for Cat Stone. We'll get to it later. The little butterfly is cute. I think I'll put the butterfly, oops, right there. And I still don't have quite what I want for this spot right here. So maybe I'll just leave it as it is to show the shape of this trim and put that in the corner there so that we kind of have the image bookended on the corners, so sort of a diagonal visual. Yeah, I think that's how I'm going to do this. Usually I would also cover that up with something, so I'm just wondering, maybe one more little piece of that green to give it a little texture, and maybe even a little something right there. The bow is cute, but it's a little bit, I would say, too modern looking for the woman in this beautiful image. But that would be cool, wouldn't it? Again, though, that would bulk up the page way too much. That little cute thing. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do 3 corners. So before I overthink this too much and make it a video in which I only make 1 magnet, I'm gonna just do it. So I'm taking my wire cutters and just carefully snipping off the backs of all of the earrings I've decided to use. That one, I think I can get it smaller. And if I can't, then this will just have to be sans butterfly. Yeah, or maybe that'll go down here instead. And this can go here. It's fun to play around a little bit before you make your final decisions of where to put things. Try to pick something that looks visually balanced. And I know that's not very helpful, but it's one of those things that comes intuitively. I would say this is now visually balanced. So, just like I did last time, I'm just gonna put glue where I want the little thingies. For the jewelry, I'm putting it directly onto the jewelry backs instead of trying to put it on the green first. There goes my nail polish. Fair warning, if you do work with Fabri-Tac glue, the moment it comes in contact with nail polish, I'm wearing in almost every video just because I love this stuff. It's so quick drying, it's so easy to use, it's certified vegan and cruelty-free. My favorite nail polish, it's called Golden Quartz. It's kind of like a rose quartz color. It's called Golden Quartz and it's by Sally Hansen vegan line. You have to be very careful with it because, well, if you're vegan like me, she does make non-vegan nail polishes too, or that company does. But the vegan line. I love it. But where I was going with that, you know how you sometimes get glue on your nails and you can just kind of peel it off and keep working? When it's Fabri-Tac glue, it strips your nail polish as good as if it was actual nail polish remover. But anyway, here it is. What do you think? How far are we into the video? We're 20 minutes in, but that is not something that takes 20 minutes. That's probably a 5-minute craft right there. We have a lace strip that matches the style of earring. We've got a little butterfly of transformation. We've got a couple broken jewelry pieces that are upcycled. Super, super cute. Some sari fabric. And then on the back, you can see it's just a magnet. So I'm going to set this one aside and get started on the next. So let's see. She sticks out a little bit and I don't really want to trim her. So I might set that aside and do something different with it. These ones are going to stick out really far, but that's okay since the magnet is not sticking out. See what I mean? Yeah, I think that shape is just a little awkward, but this little beautiful goddess is looking like she'll be just right. So I'm gonna try to salvage this glue smear. What would you call it? Glue bubble. When it comes to the end, I have a little dish of sand that I keep it in. And it helps get the glue to the bottom, but this stuff is so expensive. I don't want to switch to my new bottle until I've used up every last drop in the old bottle. So it might make the video a little bit less entertaining, but that's real life crafting for you. This time I'm making sure to cap it and put it upside down immediately. I love this image. This is an image of Shakti, or the goddess Devi of the tradition of Sanatana Dharma. Look at that, perfectly centered. So I am just going to go over the gold border with gold fabric. So let me see how I want to do this. There's the beaded part of this sari, so I'd like to use that too. So let's see if this one will tear. It will not. It has to be cut. With some fabric weaves, you can cut a little snip and then tear a perfectly straight line all the way down the rest of the fabric. Those are by far the easier to work with. But it's okay. If you've got some nice fabric scissors, you can cut through it fairly easily. So see what I mean? I'm going to cut just thin little strips to put over all the borders. I'll cut off the really grungy looking part at the end because I'm not going for a grunge look on this piece. I love that little bit of fringe that we have here. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when it comes to crafts that sometimes a material doesn't really look very good. Like this big piece of cheap gold stuff, I almost threw it away when it arrived in the mail because a lot of the time you can't see texture in a photograph. And it came as the piece to make into a blouse when I ordered a really pretty sari. Actually, I think it came with the sari that's embroidered like this. So yeah, the golds don't even really match. It's definitely not an expensive piece, but it works. It gets the job done if you want it for crafty purposes. So I've cut lots and lots of little strips here. And I'm just going to, once again, put glue all around the border here. And that way it's ready to glue down all the strips and I don't need to pull out the glue too many times in a row. Yeah, I think so far, well, I don't want to say I have a favorite, but for me, yeah, maybe I do. I think this is my favorite of my little crafty gifts to make videos so far, just because it's the kind of thing that is so personal, especially if you choose an image that you know your recipient, whoever you're giving it to, is going to absolutely love, you know, something that has some personal significance to them. You can get really, really creative with it. And that's what makes it so, so special. Now let's see. I'm going to do a couple of these, maybe one in each corner. This one that I'm making right here is really like each image kind of gives you the color palette as to look for in your fabrics. So see that dark crimson, almost like wine color down here? That's the same color that I have in these little sari medallions. And so it makes these just the perfect, perfect little touch to decorate that. Now, I don't like things to be too symmetrical or too matchy-matchy. I mean, I love symmetry in my jewelry and in my makeup application. You know, symmetry has its place in the world too. But as far as the aesthetic of junk journal pages go, I love things to be asymmetrical. So I already know I am not going to glue these things down, one in each corner. I'm just kind of putting them there for now, just to be a little playful as I decide where to put them for real. My goodness, did I just do that off camera? If so, I am sorry. But I trust that you know what it looks like to cut the edges off of some fabric. There we go. So maybe if I do a little grouping of these in one corner and then another one down in the other corner, sort of similar to what we did for our last magnet. And then maybe something like that up there or down here. That looks kind of cool, doesn't it, with all the spirally swirls? And I'm thinking that because she's a Hindu goddess, I would love to find something from India to put up in that corner. I don't want to use this because, as you can see, it's too overwhelming for that design. The gold is too dark and rich for the shades of gold that we have here. So I'm just going to step away for a moment and look on my bead desk to see if I've got anything Indian that would suit that particular image. And I do, of course. My goodness, I hope you can still hear me as I do this. Oh yeah, I've got a couple good things for this one already. So I found, nope, that's still too bright gold and overwhelming. But this little strand of Rudraksha beads would look pretty cool. Pretty cool hanging there, wouldn't it? So yeah, as it's so spontaneous, it's so unpredictable where craft will go. Maybe I'll put it here so it's kind of centered on that gold instead. And how about something like that up there? Yeah, the only thing I'm certain about so far is this little cluster of sari trim medallions. So I'm going to start by gluing them down, and that way they will stop flopping around while I work on the rest of this image. Doesn't that look neat? So yeah, if you don't limit yourself to try to use your fabrics, I'm also going to go ahead and put that one there permanently. If you're not too attached to using your fabrics exactly as they were made, like that little rectangle of medallions, if I was too attached to it, I would have tried to preserve it as it was intact forever. But as it is, I think it looks so nice with the medallions cut out separately and glued on just how I've glued them. So let's see, how do I want to hang that there? I'm thinking with some wire. So again, I stepped off camera, but I guess I'm not really on camera anyway, am I? Can you even tell if I walk away? I don't know. But I did just for a second to get this little piece of craft wire. So I'm just going to fold that like so. I'm going to pull this back up. Don't worry, I can glue that back in a moment. I'm going to, oh, would you look at that? I dropped it. So no problem. I'll cut another little piece. Yeah, do you guys make as many mistakes as I do if you film yourself crafting? You know, getting the dropsies, as I call them. And I've got my crocodile here and poke just a little hole right here for that wire to go through, making sure that it's not going to affect the magnet. There we go. Not bad. And I'm going to attach that on the back. Don't worry, that'll get covered up. I try to make things so that even the backs look presentable, since I know whoever has the journal will see the back and the front. There we go. That's better, isn't it? And then for up there, does that work? Ooh, there's also this beautiful green flower that's the same shade as Davy's skin. But I don't really like the idea of putting Western jewelry on this Hindu image. So maybe instead of jewelry, I'll put another little bit of sari. How would that look? I don't want to cover her up too much. Yeah, like I said, we are spontaneous on this channel. Oh, that's the piece right there. There we go. Another piece from a sari. What I love about this one, the way it turned out, which I didn't really know how I was going to do this when I started, but everything that I've used to decorate this goddess comes from India. The sari fabrics, and of course the Rudraksha seeds, which are, as per the Vedic lore, they are the tears of compassion shed by Lord Shiva when he looked down and saw the suffering of humanity. So it's a very sacred seed. I'm going to cover up the back of this with more of that gold fabric, just because I don't like the look of the white paper hanging out from the magnet. This one, I don't mind at all from the back because you don't see the white cardstock at all. You just see the fabrics in the magnet. But on this one, I just think that looks a little sloppy. So I'm going to cut a piece of this gold as close as possible to the size and shape of the back of this art piece. So that means like so, and like so. I'm not being too perfect because if it sticks out anywhere, it matches what's there on the front anyway, so it'll be fine. But yeah, I'm just gonna glue this down. And then she'll even have kind of a double layer of gold. I am going to trim it just a wee bit. So it's not sticking up too much. I think that's okay though. What do you think? I think that looks super cool. Let's just see which looks better, the front or the back of the fabric. So one side, I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but one side we have kind of a bright gold lattice with a darker gold diamond shape in the middle. The other side, it's the diamonds that are bright and the lattice that's dark. I'm gonna go with that one for the top. I just think that looks a little bit nicer. So this is also going to seal in the wire that I used to attach that strand of Rudrakshas. Now I'm going to be very careful not to put the Fabri-Tac on the magnet. I still want this to stick. That's why I'm just using a thin layer of fabric. I wouldn't recommend doing this with like a thick velvet or anything embroidered, because that will add a really thick layer behind your magnet, thus making it no longer magnetized. We don't want to do that. We don't want to make just a pretty cluster. We want to make a pretty cluster on a magnet. Right, there we go. Isn't she beautiful? So I will set this one aside and get to the next one. So you may have noticed a little pile of papers fell off my desk. They are these Victorian calling card prints that I made. They're out of my digital printable kit called Victorian Treasures, for obvious reasons why I called it that. I was going to make each of these into a flat magnet, but I'm actually going to save them to do something else. But I just wanted to hold them up to show you that that is one other thing you could make a magnet out of. Oh yeah, look at that, baby. Beautiful. So what if I do this little sari scrap and just kind of make it into a textile collage by layering some other sari pieces to it. Sari and random other pieces. The goal being to fill up that white space. This is a snippet of one of the really cool fabrics my friend May sent me. You know what? I'm not loving it. I'm not loving it, so I'm gonna do something else instead, and that's okay too. But yeah, you could cover one entire magnet just with textile pieces, like a textile art magnet. You get the idea because you've seen that in my sticker making video. So this little tin here, one of my favorite things ever. It shows Mont Saint-Michel, like a really cool cathedral island in France. I've always thought it was a neat thing. I don't think I've ever mentioned how cool I think Mont Saint-Michel is. And yet Catstone must have known because this was in one of her Happy Mails. And it just happened to be filled with the most adorable little crafty things and art prints. And so these are all prints of Kat's amazing art. and I've decided to turn them into magnets for this project. So I think, let's see, the Pegasus is so pretty. I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm going to save this one for my own journal because it shows a centaur. That one's fun. One of her fashion girls with an elephant in the background. Yeah, I'll do that one and I'll do the butterfly one for today, but you can expect to see more of these stunning pieces in journals that I make in the future. But yeah, I'm thinking let's start with this beautiful butterfly girl, and I'm going to see if I can maybe add, oh no, you know how I said these magnets come in pairs? This will be on the back of that one. Perfect little transition magnet, isn't it? Because we're going to transition from the textile framed art prints into the standalone jewelry magnets so effortlessly. I'm thinking these are going to go into a butterfly themed journal that I'm going to make one day. So, okay, one of the comments I received recently was not on a video of mine. It was a reply to one of my comments. Hi, Mara, if you're watching this. I had commented on a video by, I almost said Amity Bloom, not Amity Bloom. A video by Luna Rosu. She does unbelievably cool journal work. And one of my lovely crafty lady viewers saw my comment on her journal and replied back that she was going to send me a link to Luna Rosu's channel because she always thinks of me when she watches Luna Rosu. She just loves her work. And she said, how cool, you already watch her, and that she often wonders who her YouTubers, like who do her favorite YouTubers is how she worded it. So thank you for that. Whose channels do we watch? And so I thought maybe I should share that with you. I obviously love Luna Rosu, who I've mentioned. But yeah, I've decided I want to decorate this butterfly with a piece of jewelry. And I'm thinking that sort of moonstone looking thing in a golden frame perfectly goes with the colors. This one, I'm not even going to do anything else to it. Kat has already painted the edges with gold paint. And so I would say that's perfect. It just needed the magnet. But this cool little butterfly that she made, it's also perfect already. But sometimes we like to embellish even on perfection, do we not? And so I want, ooh, that would be cool too, wouldn't it? Ooh. Decisions. It's too small. I really like that. I also really like this. Is there anything else I have here? I don't want to go Christmassy with it. That's a little too pink. Okay, so it's between this. I'm going to go with this one. I think the neutral color palette, I'm not going to overthink it. The neutral color palette really, really works here. So I'm snipping off the back. And I'm going to glue this down to that spot there. I wish, see, maybe I can do a better snip job. See how it has this big little, like big glob of metal? I'm going to get my metal cutters here right at the base and using both hands, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Yay! And it worked. When you do that, my friend, learn from the mistakes of others. Always do it with the wire cutters facing downwards and do it upside down. That way the metal piece that could be a very dangerous projectile if it hits you in the face will land on your table instead of flying through the air and smacking you in the eye. Which, believe it or not, happened to me once. Thank goodness I was okay. But if it had been a sharp piece, it could have been quite bad. So since then, yeah, I always use my wire cutters aimed downward. Oh yeah, look at that. That butterfly now looks like a piece of jewelry. I mean, it already kind of did, but now even more so. So the next step to get our magnet, I've got these little magnets here. Let's use a bigger one since the print is larger and we have enough surface space. Look at that, it already, oh, are these already magnets? I don't think so. I think it's magnetizing to that piece of metal there, so that's cool. I just want to make sure it sticks to this, and it does. Yay! Yay for spontaneity working out. There we go. Yeah. So good to know. The way this sticks is the way it naturally also sticks to that. I'm just going to leave it on that magnet before I glue it so that I don't forget which side to glue, because it would be such a shame if I went to the trouble of gluing it and then had to redo it the other way around. So there, I'm just going to hold that for a moment until the glue is dry enough to move it. And there we have a perfectly matched magnet pair, one to go on one side of a journal page, one to go on the other. So I started telling you about which other junk journal channels I watch. One of them, oh my goodness, I think her name is Alexandra. I'm so sorry to have forgotten her name. Or Victoria. She has a beautiful old-fashioned sounding name. Her channel is called Girl with a Butterfly. And I just love her channel. She makes some of the most over-the-top decorated journals I've ever seen, and that's coming from me. I make some over-the-top decorated journals. But one of her videos was a custom order that she had made, and the theme or the concept for the journal was a butterfly garden, or like kind of a secret garden. And it just had so many beautiful butterflies in it. And that's kind of her signature. I mean, obviously her channel name is called Girl with a Butterfly. Did you see that? That magnet just jumped. So I guess it wants to be part of this earring. So we'll do that. But anyway, she and I have chatted about one day doing a journal swap when she's got some more time to focus on her crafting. So I have been squirreling away things that I'm going to use in her journal ever since the day that we decided we will someday do a swap. And I think these are just so glamorous and so elegant. I think she would love them, seeing how she loves butterflies and all. And like me, she also tends to use a very bright, colorful palette. And that's a little rare in the junk journal community, isn't it? Like, a lot of journal artists prefer muted tones, more neutrals. But yeah, I gravitate towards, you know, Martina at Magnolia Fairy Tale. Hi, Martina, if you're watching this one. Girl with a Butterfly, Luna Rosu. Whoops. Okay, so don't do these too close to each other or the magnets will jump. Goodbye, beautiful nail polish. I've had to strip and repaint my nails 3 times already since starting this series, and usually that's something I only do once a week. But yeah, the glue, help. Here's where it would be nice to have some extra hands. I thought I could put the glue on a bunch of them all at once and then glue down the magnets, but we're gonna have to do this more one at a time. But yeah, it's just as simple as this. And I've got an idea for what I'm planning to do with these little magnets that is kind of wild. So you might see some of these resurface in my future videos. But yeah, just simple and effective. How cute would they look on a journal page? Don't worry too much about the glue that's kind of smushing over the edges. That can easily be peeled off once it's dry. This little one I've got on my list of things to make, a tea-themed journal. So this little teaspoon will definitely go in it. It was one of my grandmom's teaspoon collection. She doesn't remember where it came from, and it was never on display in her home. So even though it's from my grandmom, it doesn't really have the sentimental value that, say, a piece of jewelry I've seen her wear might have. So I don't mind using it in a craft. I love, love, love this piece. This was in the most recent junk jewelry jar that I bought. And it's so much fun when you go through those junk jewelry jars. This was in one as well. Powa shell, a really high-end version of mother of pearl. I would not buy it new for vegan reasons, but when it's in a junk jewelry jar, I consider it to be usable because it's not supporting the industry. They will sometimes drag nets along the ocean floor in places where Powa shell is harvested, and along with the shelled creatures whose inner shells have the nacre that becomes Powa, those nets will also scoop up other sea life, and it gets destroyed, kind of like collateral damage, in the process of harvesting Powa shell. So for that reason, I would never buy it new. I consider that to be a non-vegan material, just like silk and leather and wool. But I don't have any moral qualms with using it if it's secondhand, since that does not support the industry. And every vegan is different. So I mean, if I were to give this to a vegan, well, I wouldn't. I would not give this to a vegan friend. I would save this for the journal of someone either non-vegan, or if it's a fellow vegan, someone who I know would also not be morally opposed to receiving it. Something to consider, like I've noticed that a lot of junk journalers I really love. So I started telling you, who else do I watch on YouTube? Obviously Luna Rosu, obviously Girl with a Butterfly, since I just mentioned both of them. I also really love, oh no, I'm going to blank on the name of her channel, aren't I? Oh, J'adore le papier. And I forget her name, the name of the creator, but she does some really amazing work. Her journals look like, they look like the kind of portfolio an artist or a designer would carry as a lookbook with their ideas for future fashions. And she does deep dives into the history of different fashion houses with her work. They are just super cool. She's done a Hermes themed journal, a super luxury, am I right? And she made it look like the journal cover was a Hermes bag. So that's the kind of stuff she does. It's absolutely stunning. She works with a lot of new tweeds and a lot of leathers to get that haute couture sort of a style. And so I love watching her videos, but I always kind of think, I wish it was a vegan variation. Like, is there a way to veganize this with like faux leather and faux tweed? There we go. So since this was hollow and the magnet would have sunk inside and not been usable, I've just kind of fluffed it up with some pink fabric, as you saw. And now it'll sit a little bit higher off the page because that fabric wasn't flat. So I'm gonna just push this and squish it and try to get it flatter. But since it uses one of the larger magnets, it's still going to work. Okay, so these babies, no-brainers for magnets. These pieces were in junk jewelry jars, not all the same jar, but they already had their earring posts broken off, which is like, score! Less work for me. I just have to glue the magnet in place. And they add some fun texture to a journal too, don't they? They add, gosh, I jumped a mile. That bit of glue at the end of the string, at first I thought that was a spider. But anyway, yeah, when you find pieces like this that are missing earrings, that are missing their posts, or brooches that the brooch back has broken off, save them because they are craft treasure. And by the way, if you've noticed, I'm not too concerned at this point about the direction the magnet faces. That's because these ones, it won't really matter what kind of magnet goes on the back. Or I should say, at this point, it doesn't matter because when I make something to go on the backs of these, I will position those magnets to fit properly. I hope I'm explaining that well. So last year I made my cousin Dryden a Dungeons and Dragons journal. He's gonna get this for his journal this year. He loved it so much, more than I could have ever imagined he would love a junk journal, seeing as he's a man. But he loves D&D so much that anything D&D with that kind of mystical fairy tale realm, dragonish aesthetic is totally his vibe. And yeah, his favorite color is green, and this just looks to me like the kind of thing that would be a part of a D&D character's costume. And this one, I'm gonna save this. I might glue that flat down onto a journal cover at some point. Oh, I just love this cluster here. These vintage jewelry pieces are so cool to find. I might not turn this one into a magnet just simply because it's rounded at the bottom, so it kind of wobbles and may not be as ideal made totally flat. So yeah, some of these I had planned on making into magnets, but now I'm changing my mind. This is going to go in the swap journal that I'm making for May. And oh no, this one was going to as well. It was a little Mickey Mouse, but when I clipped off the back of the earring, one of the ears broke off. So that is now, I'll still do something with it because it looks like a couple of cute little pearls, but it's not going to be the magnet that I had planned. But such is life when we're working with junk jewelry, right? These are not precious silver and gold pieces. These are usually cheaply made costume jewelry that people donate to a thrift store when they lose one of the earrings or they get sick of the pair. Here's a good one to demonstrate. So for this one, it also has this big clump of metal holding in the earring post. I'm not going to try to cut off that clump of metal because that clump of metal will be the perfect base for our magnet. So what I am going to try to do is get as much of the post off as possible so that it gives a flatter background. And this one I'd already made into a magnet a couple of years ago, so that I will just set right aside. But to show you, this isn't a new idea for me. This is something I've been doing. This one here, I'm going to put in my own journal. There was only, either there was only one of these earrings, or maybe there were two and I've already used one in a project, but I love the color so much. It's like this I don't know if the camera is quite capturing it, but it's like a muted lime green or like a pastel-y. It's just beautiful. This piece here is going to go in Cat Stone's journal. And I'm going to try to snip it so that, see how there's the scalloped edge around it? I want to cut right into that metal so that instead of just cutting off the loop, I'm actually making it look like it never had a loop to begin with. And look, it worked. Not perfectly, but good enough. So Kat adores horses, and this is going in her journal to represent her time with her horses. I think I'm gonna leave it at just these ones for today, but you can see how quickly these magnets can be made if you just have a pair of wire cutters, some glue, a magnet stash, and some junk jewelry. And it goes much faster if you remember to keep your Fabri-Tac bottle upside down. But there we go, it's coming out. Oh. Actually, I think after these ones I will do one more, just because I want to use it. So I might as well make it. Does this want to flip over? There. I'm trying to let... Okay, we're going to fill this one up with some of that pink fabric too, just because the dome on the inside is a little bit more, a little bit deeper than I at first thought it would be. It's funny. When I reach for my scissors, my gluey fingers stuck to this piece here, so I'm going to use this instead of the pink. And it goes a little bit better with the gold. So yeah, I'm just going to glue that in. So that it holds the magnet. There. Now I've got something good to glue the magnet to. And since this one is for my own personal journal, I'm being much, much, much less meticulous in how I glue the fabric down, because I tend to try to make things more perfect if they are gifts for friends or relatives, or if it's something to sell. But when it's just for me, I'm much less perfectionistic. And I think we're all like that to some extent, aren't we? Let's see if I can get rid of this lumpy clump. This is going into a journal for my friend May, one of my favorites. I was going to keep it for myself, but when I found out that she and I have the same favorite colors, I just immediately thought, oh, that bit of kind of turquoisey blue in this earring, it's meant to go to her. So I'm not sure though. Before I put glue on it, I'm going to test it to see whether or not the magnet will stay in place and if it will fill up the space without hanging over the edge. And I think it does. So there we go. Instead of trying to glue it over that metal nubbin, or whatever you call those metal thingies, I'm just going to glue it right there in the middle. May really spoils me when she sends me happy mail, so in return I am trying to use the very best of the materials I've collected when I make her happy mails. Taking a smaller little magnet to put on this one, I think, just because I don't know if the glue on that will support it. But you know what? Oops, and I've lost stuff. I might also see about twisting this around here. If I can do it in a way that it doesn't show through on the front, then I can kind of glue this in. Oh yeah, that'll work. I'm glad that I picked some earrings that are more complicated to try to work with, so you can see. I wouldn't have thought in advance that this is something worth showing you in the tutorial, but now that I'm doing it, I realize this might have been something that maybe somebody watching this would have wondered about, and I kind of figured out how to do this just through the process of trial and error as I've been making crafty stuff for the last couple of years. Yeah, I got into this during the time of COVID in 2020. I stumbled across a picture, I think it was on Instagram, of a bohemian style junk journal. I don't even remember what I had searched on Instagram that would have produced that as a result, but I think of it as one of those days in my life. Sorry, I crouched down to get this off the floor. One of those days in my life that I didn't wake up that morning and think my life's about to change, but it did. And it was a video by Rehatched Designs by Tina Williams. She called it her gypsy journal, and I'm aware of the fact that some people find that a very offensive term, since it has been used in the past as slang to disparage the Roma people or the Romani people. So I'm avoiding to use that word in titles of my journals, but if you want to see the video that sparked my love of junk journaling, that is what it's called. Yeah, look at that. You can't even tell it's stuffed with pink fabric. So yeah, she's another, ooh, look at how cool that looks on the back. I should have looked at the back of this before I decided to snip off the charm medallion. Would it be? Oh, yay! Thank you, universe. So I don't need to glue the magnet down to it. I'm just going to use it. It's very, very strongly held naturally. So yeah, Kat, if you're watching this and you find this in your journal, the magnet comes off and you can see the really cool sort of southwestern design on the back of this piece. Let's see. Here's one that I had found in my collection of junk jewelry, and that looks like peridot. And peridot just happens to be my Auntie Mary Lynn's favorite gemstone of all time. So I know I'm going to turn that into something for her, but it would be impossible to flatten. So what I'm thinking of doing is making her kind of a textile art magnet, sort of in the style of this one here, and then working the peridot into it somehow. But I'm not going to do that right now on camera because I think this video has gone on long enough. But I'm quite happy with how these turned out. I'm going to save this little print and make that into a framed magnet the next time I'm working on a journal for someone who loves elephants. So if you're watching this and you've been thinking of requesting a custom order and you're into elephants, let me know, because then I'll know for whom I will set that aside. But yeah, all of these could have easily become magnets too. And this one here, really cool Art Deco style costume jewelry piece. One day I'd like to make a journal called the Black and White Ball, and I'd love to fill it up with just things in different shades of black, white, ivory, cream, grays, like keep it kind of a monochromatic journal. And so any black and white jewelry that I find, I'm kind of saving for that. Now this one was in a junk jewelry jar kind of gross on the back like this. Clearly somebody at some point had tried to glue an earring base onto it unsuccessfully. And so I don't mind at all gluing something on it, but it's missing one of the rhinestones. So here's one of my other tips when it comes to making things out of junk jewelry. Oh, can you see him? Domino just jumped up right next to my workspace. Hey, buddy. Anyway, I like to go through my junk jewelry and find pieces like this one here, just a really cheap rhinestone link that has two different sizes of faux diamonds. One had already fallen out, but the smaller size looks to be an almost exact match to the smaller size faux diamonds here, including the one that's missing. So using my wire cutters, I'm going to attempt to dislodge one of these little crystals. Worked on the first try. And so if that was too finicky for you to see, what I did was I got my wire cutters under the rhinestone and just kind of squeezed. And you got to do it kind of carefully so that you don't break the stone in half. Like, they're usually paste, which is the costume jewelry word for glass. They're usually just glass gemstones. So they shatter very, very easily if you put your wire cutters right on them. But yeah, if you can get your cutter beneath them, they pop out really easily. So look at that. It's no longer missing a rhinestone. It has all of its little bling. And yeah, it's one of my favorite little tricks to do because it gives so much more life to so many of your pieces. And so I keep this in a special place so that if ever I'm working on something that's missing a big stone, I've got the big ones. For the little stones, I've got the little ones. Of course, it won't fit for everything that's missing a faux diamond, but a lot of them are standard size just because they've always kind of mass-produced materials. So you can find that a stone from one project will actually fit a piece of jewelry from another project. Anyway, you get it. You get it. I'm not going to glue the back on this one just because I want the glue to dry where I've glued in the crystal. But yeah, let's tally up what we made here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I can count. Oh yeah, they still all want to stick together. So I'm going to have to space them a little bit better. I'd say that's a pretty good haul for one video. What do you think? Got one Christmas gift ready for my cousin. Got maybe the most beautiful piece of jewelry ever to go in a junk journal. Nah, that's talking it up too much. But got a very pretty blue earring for May's journal. Have this one that I didn't even have to glue it to, thank goodness. And then our beautiful framed images, as well as, whoops, our butterfly set. So yeah, I would say this was a little successful craft session. I'm so grateful for you tuning in and watching. To everyone who has liked, subscribed, commented, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It makes this so worth it to keep doing. I really, truly read every comment, try to reply to every comment, appreciate the heck out of every comment. So yeah, thank you so much. And if you choose to make any of the things that I've demonstrated, I would love to see how it turns out. So please do tag me on Instagram if you do. I am at _theartofgems_. I'll put a link to that in the description. And I'll also put a link to my Etsy shop so that you can find my creations. Anyhow, happy crafty and happy holidays. So much love to you. See you next time.